I'm Holly Cheeseman. I'm the state representative for East Lyme and Salem. I speak today in opposition to raised bill HB 5230, an act honoring Connecticut National Guard Medal of Honor recipients. In no way do my constituents' opposition and my opposition to this bill indicate anything but the highest respect for the career of Colonel Nett, whose exploits Representative Hennessy described so eloquently. I think it's important to look at the past history of the naming of Camp Niantic. In 2010, the legislature passed, and Governor Rell signed into law Public Act 1069, an act naming the state military training facility Camp Niantic. Prior to that time, every time a governor changed, the name of the camp was changed. And this created a lot of confusion for people who served there. Where did you serve? Oh, it was Camp Dempsey, it was Camp Rell, Camp Roland, whatever. So this bill provided continuity and a common identifying name for all who would serve and train at the camp. It also avoided the unnecessary costs associated with the name change every time. In addition, the bill specifically stated that the change was to be permanent. Now, I have had more correspondence about this name change from my veterans and residents in my constituency than just about any other piece of legislation we've discussed in the past session. As far as those who've contacted me is concerned, the legislature said, this is the name in perpetuity. And as much as they respect Colonel Nett, that was a done deal. They also feel if we are going to rename the camp, let it be renamed after someone who has some connection to our part of the state. They're worthy Medal of Honor recipients who come from Eastern Connecticut, and they feel this would be a more appropriate name. Colonel Nett felt very strongly about New Haven, in fact, so strongly that he accepted his Medal of Honor at the New Haven Armory. As Representative Hennessy indicated, this bill was raised last year. We talked about reaching a compromise. I would be more than willing to work with him to come up with something that would honor Colonel Nett and help my constituents who believed, as we said, that this was going to be Camp Niantic. I thank you for your time today, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Representative Cheeseman, for your testimony, and thank you for coming today to provide that testimony. I really appreciate it, Senator Gomes.
Did I hear you say, anyway, the way I understand it, you have no objection for Niantic being named after a war hero? It's just that you feel like it should be named after somebody that is connected with your region or your area? That's why you said Colonel Nett, you associated him with New Haven, so to speak. You said he accepted his medal or recognition from New Haven. So it's not the idea that you're not that you want it to remain solely as the name of Niantic.
And this is the feedback I've had from my Veterans Council, my VFW members, my American Legion members. They still would like, they want to maintain the name of Camp Niantic, but if you are going to rename it after a military hero, they feel that it should be someone with a connection to their part of the state. Their desire is it to remain Camp Niantic.
Well, I'm glad that you would recognize that for, if you were talking about military, that it'd be after a military hero, because I have an aversion to places being named after places like in Bridgeport, the arena is named after Webster Bank. Yeah, I think you should be naming it after some sort of ball player or something like that. And we had all throughout the United States, all these places because of the money being named after corporations and everything. So I believe a military, if it's going to be recognized as a military entity, it should be named after somebody that's associated with the military. And I'm glad you recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gomes. Senator May Flexer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Representative.
Good afternoon.
If I can be frank, the debate over this has been somewhat debilitating for the efforts of this overall committee to get things done in the past. And so I want to try to find some sort of compromise. And I'm just going to throw out a suggestion here in the moment, thinking about that, listening to your testimony, listening to the testimony just before you. What if we called it Camp Net at Niantic?
I would be more than happy to take that back to my constituents. I think that was one of the names we threw around last year and that was actually shot down. So
Shot down by who and in what process?
in discussion, we had discussions on the floor of the House and various names went back and forth. As I say, I know how much business you have before you in this short session. I would love to reach a compromise. I would love to be, come before you with my constituents' full support. So I'm happy to have that conversation.
Okay. Do you think your constituents, based on the conversations you've already had with them, would be supportive of that change?
I think they would recognize something that maintained the mention of Niantic in the camp name.
Okay.
If they had their choice, and to be honest, in terms of the fiscal impact, I know it's small, but it is not going to come without cost. Their first choice would be, this was the bill, this was the deal, let's leave well enough alone. But I certainly understand the desire to honor Colonel Nett, and as I say, I am happy to do something that will clear this off the books, honor him. Respect a past decision made by the legislature so you and everyone else can move on.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So, in regards to the bill that passed that changed the name to Niantic, I just want to go on the record of saying that the chair was Ted Graziani at the time, and he was under the impression that the consideration was to change the name to Camp Net, that was the bill that the National Guard had presented. And unbeknownst to the chair, Representative Jutila is recognized and brings out the bill that became the law. And the record, I believe, states that when the vote was taken, it was unanimous, as most veteran committee bills are, except for the chairman that at the last second voted no. But he did not wish to state his opposition because he was broadsided by this. He was not aware that this was going to happen. It's an unfortunate case in which the chair's desires, and I was hoping that he would be here to testify to this, his desires were thwarted, and this is how this debacle had occurred. That I thought it was just kind of a common sense thing to recognize the military tradition of naming military bases after military heroes, as opposed to a naval tradition of naming them after a location. So I think that bears some relevance, is just how this happened. It really wasn't above board, unfortunately. You're welcome to comment if you want.
Well, I thank you for your background, but it's, certainly as far as my constituents and I was concerned. I knew nothing of this background. We are where we are today, regardless of how we arrived here. I will add, in addition, that as far as it being Camp Niantic, it also recognizes the original inhabitants of that area, which were in fact the Niantic Indians after Niantic was named. So I think that's something to consider. But as I say, we are here where we are. You've eloquently explained both Colonel Nett's heroism and how we've arrived at this juncture through the vagaries of the legislative process. So again, I thank you for your time. I am willing to work to reach a compromise, so this clears the deck so you can get on with more important business.
Thank you. I have Senator Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Speak.
Just from an observation from last year and to this year, and I think this may have went back two years ago, You know, this seems to be coming back every single year. I'm glad to hear that there's some movement regarding Niantic. I think that's a great compromise. So I would just encourage your group, your constituents, to maybe be receptive to this. From what I see, is the rest of the state is all for this, and it's just a small contingency that are really opposing this and sort of stopping this from moving forward. So we'd like to get this behind us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Martin. Any other comments, questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.